making sense of the latest developments across the civic science landscape by dissecting new insights from civic scientists and practitioners in academia, government, for-profit, and non-profit organizations. This is Questions of the Day with Fanuel Muindi.
Based in New York City, Biobus is a high-tech science lab on wheels that brings accessible science to underrepresented communities. The organization has reached over 350,000 students at more than 900 schools and community organizations since 2008, and has also engaged students as far away as New England, California, Rwanda, Egypt, and Jordan.
We have a partnership with Columbia University, and we have an amazing ground floor community lab space, but we're inviting people from all over the community to come into that space, which, I think really...
Ben Dubin-Thaler, the founder of Biobus, stops by Questions of the Day to share some of the lessons the organization has learned along the way.
Ben Dubin-Thaler, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Fanuel. It's great to be here.
Now, I found a video, okay,
Oh, no.
of you and Sarah Wiseman. It's a 2011 video. You guys were talking about the Biobus, all right? You were giving us a tour at that
Is this
time.
the iBio? Is this the iBio thing?
Yes. It is the iBio video. Can you take us back to those early days of the Biobus and tell us what you were thinking about, you, Sarah, and anybody else involved at that time? What were you trying to do? And yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I bought the bus off of, I bought our first mobile lab, bought the bus off of Craigslist in 2007. And I did not, I had an idea. I'd like to think it was a pretty good one. It's worked out, but I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, those were steep learning curve days. Ranging from learning how to fix an old diesel engine to figuring out how to connect with third graders around a microscope, but I was really lucky, like I think almost all successful adventures. I was really lucky to have some amazing people join me early on, and that was really, I think, the key to the success. So Sarah Weisberg and Latasha Wright and Danny Valdez, those are some of the first folks that were crazy enough to jump on the bus with me back when it was really a terrible, it was, the bus was in terrible condition. It was breaking every 100 miles or so. I mean, it was, the paint was peeling. They really helped me take it was a solid minimal viable product and turn it into something that was a little bit more roadworthy and worthy of scaling up and expanding. So those early days, they were really adventurous, and we were just a bus back then. Now Biobus has really expanded into trying to create create scientific communities in the neighborhoods that we work in through after school programs and a really exciting big internship program where students can engage with us over years. And students do engage with us some of our students have been working with us for 10 years, 12 years, are in college and graduate school and jobs now. But back then we were just a bus, and we were really trying to figure out what to do and what was going to engage people's curiosity and attention and excitement. And that's what led us to MBL, to the Marine Biology Laboratory, where that video was taken.
That is, I mean, it's a story that is important to keep in mind, right? So just for you to remind yourself, the video doesn't still exist. It's there. For those who are watching, you are curious to watch that video, click the link below. So has it become what you'd hoped it to be?
Oh my gosh, yes. Early on, I did have a glimmer of an idea of the project going beyond being just a bus. I had this idea in my mind at the time. I remember calling it Biobus Academy, really drawing heavily from my Star Trek fan days, like Starfleet Academy, where kids would come and just nerd out with me and other scientists about science. what we saw is that was a really needed thing, something like that, the chance for students to have, more in-depth lab experiences. But I never really imagined, where I think my imagination failed because of just lack of experience really was going to be, the importance of community connections and the importance of, really working deeply with the existing school teachers and the existing after school programs and the existing community activist groups, everybody who's like sort of engaging with science from different angles, and that's what's I think one of the things I'm most proud of with BioBus now is our teams, our scientists' ability to really bring a lot of different people together into the lab space. And it just becomes such a dynamic, exciting environment for our students to do science in. And it becomes a community where they can really build a strong sense of belonging with the scientific community. And I think, really reimagine what scientific community can be and what it can feel like in a really community-centric sense.
Yeah. I mean, and we've had Latasha Wright on the program a few times, and she shared quite great insights as well. I'm curious from your end, what have you learned personally on this journey as you have built and worked together in partnership with others to build BioBus?
I have learned tremendous amounts, and I also know that I have a lot more to learn. People are really excited about science, especially young people are already really excited about science. That was something that was a misconception of mine early on. Was I thought that we were going to bring the bus to schools in the Bronx where we started, or on the Lower East Side, or in Harlem, or now in Boston. And I thought that we were going to be sort of showing people, sort of giving people excitement for science for the first time. But students, especially younger students, most of them are already really excited about science. Actually, I think what the bus does is less like that initial spark of just like science is exciting, but it is showing them, I think for a lot of students, they're meeting a scientist for the first time, and they're experiencing a real research lab environment for the first time. And so I think what it does help students do is to help them start envision and think like, oh, like science is cool, and also I could be a scientist.
And so in thinking about community, you've mentioned this word a couple of times already, right? You're actually building these communities, right? And you are based in New York. That is your home base, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And you're expanding, of course. You have this greater visions, right? Star Trek expanding your fleet of biobuses. Tell us about the New York environment and scene where you're based, where you're building BioBus.
Yeah, New York is such an amazing city because there are just so many different beautiful neighborhoods and different beautiful communities here, and really representing cultures from all over the world. And that's true for a lot of cities. I just think New York City has a scale, that is still pretty unusual and can be pretty exciting. And I think really enriches what BioBus does, because there are so many different ways that people approach science depending on where they're coming from in their, where they're coming from in terms of their own background. So, on the Lower East Side, this is a community with a lot of community gardens, with a long history of community activism around environment and around housing rights, and and that really informs a lot of the work that we do on the Lower East Side in terms of the projects that our students are working on, in terms of what our staff focus on at public events. We do a lot of soil testing, looking at lead and arsenic in the soil, We do a lot of work on composting and community gardens and how people could be more self-sufficient in terms of growing their own food, and the health benefits of green space, because it's at such a premium in that neighborhood and in the city. So I just think that it's just such a we learn so much from the people that we work with. It really is a mutual, mutually beneficial relationship. I think.
Yeah. So just to follow up on that, thinking about New York and the people you have engaged in New York, what have you learned from them, and what have they told you in terms of what you're doing? Because online, one of the things that you mentioned in your impact is you have a lot of return visits, right, to the Biobus.
Yeah.
Very high, in fact. So what are they telling you, and why are they coming back?
I think there's a couple of things that people are telling us. I mean, one thing that we've heard, and the reason why we went beyond just being a bus, we hear over and over again that there just isn't enough access to lab spaces at the community level, and that people, young people, older people, everybody, teachers, community leaders, right? There's just this huge need for more chance for hands-on science, for inquiry-based science, for authentic, the chance for students to do authentic science research, and so that's really exciting. It's really exciting to be able to provide those spaces. We have community labs in the Lower East Side at an amazing public school called School for Global Leaders. In Harlem, the model is a little bit different. We have a partnership with Columbia University, and we have an amazing ground floor community lab space, but we're inviting people from all over the community to come into that space, which, I think really, in a lot of ways, like it just very literally is breaking down walls that have been, erected very high in that community for many decades. So it feels really good to be able to start to make those boundaries a little bit more porous, and provide that access to labs. Another story that I tell is, again, going back to what our students want to study and what kind of experiments they want to do. We had a young woman in high school come to us, and when she was developing her research project, she wanted to understand addiction. She wanted to understand, the addiction and the effect on the brain and behavior. And so our students are bringing often like very personal, reasons for wanting to do research projects, and really, I think are ultimately very empowered by science to understand and make meaning of, and to ultimately solve challenges that they see, in their families and their communities, and more broadly in the world. So it's really exciting to be able to be a part of that and to be able to support students in that journey.
Yeah, and many of your students are underrepresented minorities, a large percentage of them. You talk about access, right? Is this an important first hurdle, right, on this? And I think we know how important that can be. I wonder from your end, do you think access is sufficient? I'll stop there. Is it sufficient?
Yeah, that's a great question. Access is at the core, I think, of what Biobus does really well, which is, the bus just shows up right where you're at, right? There's no barrier, right? Like all you have to do is, all a teacher has to do is bring their class out of the school and come right on the bus. There's no field trip. There's no buses. There's no subways. There's no kids getting lost in the city. There's none of that. So that access, is really important with the mobile labs. And then as we started building our community labs, we realized that access was going to be really important there too, in terms of, we're not going to build these labs in some central part of the city. We purposely built our labs in communities where there wasn't a lot of access already, and so make it really easy for students to access those after school classes and sign up for summer programs and sign up for those internships. But I don't know if I'd say that access isn't enough. I mean, there does have to be a lot of other support around students. Access to science isn't just enough. Students, especially the students we work with who are in communities that often just don't have all sorts of different resources. They don't have housing in a lot of cases, or access to reliable housing, or healthcare, or behavioral support services, or food, or right. And so one of the things that we learned pretty early on is that access to science wasn't enough, that we needed to be partnering with community-based organizations in the neighborhoods that we wanted to reach, where the students were, so that we could provide the science, but then that other organizations whose expertise is providing all those other things I was mentioning, right, are also there for the students, so that we can support the entire student, so that they can continue to make that, make their journey in science or wherever they want to go.
Don't go away. The conversation will continue momentarily after this special highlight.
Problem: you're doing cutting-edge research that the public doesn't understand. You're incredibly busy, and outreach takes a lot of time. The solution: Galactic Polymath, an education studio that helps you connect to the most important audience for growing STEM literacy, K-12 classrooms. So, how do we connect your research to the classroom? At Galactic Polymath, we create beautiful visuals to communicate your science, design engaging lessons around your data,
analyze our data and find out for yourself,
align to teacher standards and practices, help you complete outreach on a funded grant, and win grants by having stellar broader impacts, ultimately simplifying your outreach efforts. Hire us. Let's turn your research into lessons that inspire. Real research, real people, real data, real careers, real learning. Find out more at galacticpolymath.com or email us at info@galacticpolymath.com.
Yeah, and we know how important partnerships is, right? Developing those, maintaining them, right? And you mentioned you're partnering with some local organizations. Can you tell us about one partnership within New York that you have ongoing right now?
I mean, we have so many beautiful partnerships right now, and they range from partnerships with schools to partnerships with after-school providers, to partnerships with settlement houses, and with other nonprofits. I think I would highlight our partnership with our Lower East Side team has developed. Their community lab is at a school called School for Global Leaders. It's a public school. There are several schools actually inside of that school. So that's already a community hub where we have lab space in that school that School for Global Leaders can access. The three other schools that are also in that building can come and access that lab space. So that's a really interesting example of the partnership already. But then even within that, we have one of the historic Lower East Side settlement houses, Grand Street Settlement, runs the after school program in School for Global Leaders. So after school, then the students that are at that school can enroll in that after school program and then take classes with a number of different topics, including from Biobus in science, and access lots of different types of resources. I think we're able to provide a level of scientific expertise and the amazing lab equipment that we can bring, offer that and enrich the community in that way. And then our school partners and Grand Street settlement in this case, right, they're able to really organize the community, marshal all of the other resources that we need, right, that our students need, it works really well. It's a beautiful little ecosystem, and I think it's a real model for how Biobus can continue to work in a way that's community centric and also supports our students in a way that's a full support, not just supporting their scientific aspirations, but supporting all aspects of their lives.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick rapid fire questions. Okay. So
yeah, let's do it.
keep the answers short. How many buses do you have?
We've got 2 buses. We've got an original 1974 transit bus, and we've got a 2017 Airstream trailer. That's the one that's behind me right now.
How many more do you wish to have?
We are planning to build 3 more buses over the next 5 years. And in fact, we just bought 2 new battery electric transit buses. We're going to convert one of them into a mobile lab this year, and we're going to convert the second one into a mobile lab next year.
Biggest pain point?
Biggest pain point? Yeah. Biggest pain point with the organization. I mean, there's always pain. I would say the biggest pain point is we're still in the process of going from, really like a startup culture into, we have 27 full-time staff now. And so we're really still, really working to build the infrastructure and the systems and the processes, right, of like a sort of a medium-sized established organization, to really support our staff in the way that they need to be supported and to support, hopefully, future growth.
Favorite metric?
My favorite metric is the student identity survey, which is, in a nutshell, it's a measure of how badly do our students feel the imposter syndrome in science. And we see incredible changes in that number as students go through our programs. They get more and more confident, and they feel more and more like they belong to the scientific community. So I love that number. I love seeing that number go up.
If you had unlimited funds, basically funding was not a limitation, what would you do first?
First thing I would do is I would staff up the organization so that every student that's currently on our waiting list for an internship spot, every school who wants an after-school program, who we have to say no to because we don't have enough scientists to run that program, and every school that is on our waiting list, our hundreds of school-long waiting list for the bus, we could just say yes to all of them. I just want to say yes to everybody.
So yes to everybody on that one.
Yeah.
Common misconception about Biobus.
Common misconception about Biobus is that we're just a bus, because we have these amazing after-school programs and outside of school advanced lab programs, and we have one of the largest research science internship programs in New York City.
All right. And a question that you wish more people would ask you as an organization, or maybe you as a founder, because you're out there, right, talking about Biobus. What is a question that you wish people asked you more?
I wish people asked more about how do we create a cradle to adulthood pathway for supporting people to reach their full scientific potential. I feel like too often I get the question, what's the age where we need to intervene? Where can we have the most impact? And I think that's a little bit too narrow. I really wish people would start thinking more about that entire pathway of opportunities and supports that students need to flourish.
Yeah. So 20, 30 years from now, where is Biobus?
I'm going to go back to, I want to be able to say yes to everybody. We get a lot of requests from all over the country and all over the world to help communities start up their own program, run their own mobile labs, run their after-school programs and internship programs. And I want to be able to say yes and help every single person that asks us for that. I want to be able to say, all right, here's the plan. Let's do it together. Or let's help, get you set up so you can do it on your own. So I hope that, we've helped dozens of communities across the country and maybe even the world, get their own lab set up.
Oh, wow. So do you foresee perhaps having a Biobus in this current version around the world, or having partners who are locally using maybe your curriculum, your lessons that you've learned, And if that's true, so if that's true, you're nodding, are you providing access to such material so that they can figure out how to do this,
Yeah. That's part of our current part of our current strategy is to create that kind of toolkit, so that when people ask us, like, how do we set this up? How do we set this up in San Antonio, or how do we set this up in upstate New York, in rural upstate New York, or how do we set this up in Tanzania, that we can come back and say, like, here's the toolkit, here's how you can get set up.
As my own home country of Tanzania, I would love to see Biobus there, no doubt about it. I wish we could keep chatting, Ben. This has been so much fun, and we're just opening this conversation. I think you were alluding to at the end there, this issue of scale, right? And it sounds like you guys are developing that strategy of working with partners, those who are interested around the world to build buses, Biobus, right, to go around the world. So we're going to be right here. We can actually kind of continue to track this developing story, right, that is called Biobus. Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fanuel. It's been great.
Why do stakeholders choose the CivicSciTV network?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, great question.
That's a good one.
That's a great question.
CivicSciTV. Top experts, great questions, new insights. Subscribe to the CivicSciTV network on YouTube and don't miss new insights from diverse stakeholders.